Oh, that's good. No, I do the light paper structure. But when I say I do the light paper structure, I sit down and actually put it together. But then I've got a couple of people in the team that then vet it, go over it, say, are you sure about this part? This part doesn't really make sense. But because we've got a culture of, as I've said last time, and I say every time, don't bring bakers to a meeting where you need mechanics. What we do is we basically say anything that we're talking about or have said, and this is the beautiful thing, like my co-founder's an amazing guy. He's the type of guy that basically says, go out and say what you need to go out and say, go out and put out what you need to put out. And then I'll say, yeah, but some of these things, like most things I run by, obviously, and we talk together and we do everything together, but there's certain things that he sort of says, I trust you, because if you haven't researched it, you wouldn't be talking about it. And that's our rule. And that's how we can trust each other implicitly, because we don't just make up stuff if we don't understand what it is or we don't know what we're talking about. So it's really important that we go out and talk about stuff that we have verified and we understand. Yeah, I think the thing is that we just, we don't, it's not a matter of not wanting to look stupid, because no matter what you do, even if you do something brilliant, someone's going to think you look stupid. So the thing is, it's much more for us about making sure that we know what we're talking about. So if we're in a meeting and someone says, and this happens all the time, so if it comes up to COGS, for example, and someone says, hey, we need to do a set that's about this, or it's about a particular type of egg or something, and I say, what is that egg? I don't understand what you're talking about. And then they say, oh, it's extremely popular in Japan or whatever. And I say, okay, go with it. The thing is, don't argue for the sake of arguing. If you don't understand what you're talking about, let the experts do it. And if you surround yourself with experts, you'll always be okay. And we go back to the old Henry Ford. Henry Ford, he could hardly hold a conversation, but the fact is, any question you asked him, he called the person who was an expert in his company in the room to answer the question for him. So we try as best we can to make sure that we've got well-informed people around us, and we let those people make the decisions, not us that don't understand what we're talking about in particular categories. Yeah, so with the COGS, so some people were unsure of what the virtual space is that's coming up as well, and most people think it's that we're building a headquarters in Decentraland. Now, that's one thing. The second thing is that we're actually building a virtual space that is similar to like an expo hall that has shops, but when you walk through it, it'll look like a shopping district in High Street, or Saks and Fifth or something like that. The fact is that all of these types of things, we've worked with a partner, and that partner will come on to provide many fiat currencies, and also any other currency that you can think of as a form of payment. Why that's important to what you're talking about with COGS is because behind the scenes, everything would go through RFOX. So if I pay with Indonesian rupees, then those Indonesian rupees would go through and the transaction would be settled in RFOX. So the demand to the end user, if I use rupees and I want to buy something, I should just be able to buy it. I don't need to think to myself, well, I've got to go get a Coinbase account, and then I've got to buy some Bitcoin, and then I've got to send it across to Binance, and then I've got to change that into this coin, send it through to this coin, and then I can send it over to there, and then, oh, screw this, it's too hard. Our objective is to make it that, as we've always said, we don't want people to even really, at the end goal, it's not going to happen for the first X years. The end goal is to make it so that you don't know that you're interacting with the blockchain at all. So to answer your question, we want everything to go through RFOX, but not necessarily at the surface level be RFOX. And in countries like Vietnam, it's extremely important that people understand, I can't go into a shop with RFOX. Now, let's just say that RFOX became as powerful as the dong, the Vietnamese currency. I am never going to be allowed to walk into a Vietnamese store and say, I'd like to pay for my coffee in RFOX, because anything that replaces the local currency is illegal. I have to use the local currency. So, so people say, how would you get around that in a country like Vietnam? Well, if they're buying something, they'll pay for it in dong, and then behind the scenes there would be some sort of transaction that goes through RFOX. So with the new series of RFOX for Edition 2, and it's a question that's come up a lot, we will inevitably, probably because it's so close to now, be looking at accepting other forms of payment outside of RFOX for the initial sale for two reasons. One, it's going to take us too long to get a lot of the other methods set up. Or two, we need to have liquidity for the project. So if we're actually selling something, we need money to be coming in that we can use, and we don't want to always be raising or bringing primary sale dollars in RFOX and then converting that and having that be market selling pressure. What we'd rather do is make it that all the fees, secondary transactions, and everything are done in RFOX. But the ultimate goal, longer term, is that everything that we do, touch, or interact with, everything is through RFOX. Yes, so two things on liquidity, because liquidity is an important point. We've obviously provided incentives for the liquidity pool, and that's up over $500,000 now. We've still got over a day to go, so we would assume that that's going to keep going up, which is great. What we have noticed is that a lot of people that wanted to jump in have said, I've got a large position of RFOX, but I don't really have any ETH, and I want to contribute to the pool, so I have to sell a bit of RFOX to get ETH to put into the pool. That's inevitable. But the ultimate goal is you've got to, for a project to say we are successful as far as liquidity is concerned, we need to be liquid enough to be able to handle anything or any one individual being able to say, I want to liquidate my position. That shouldn't hurt the project. You should have enough buy and sell side demand and pressure on both sides. Now, with the game coming out, second edition of COGS and all the other stuff that we've got coming up, liquidity will not be a problem for us going forwards. In these early stages, when you're getting set up, the people are always saying, what's the utility value of the token? I can buy it and I can put it into a pool. But when you can start buying items in games, and you can start buying NFTs, and you can start using it in virtual shopping places and all the rest of it, this becomes quite exciting, and it means that the transaction volumes are massive on the actual token itself. So this is obviously just months away. So we're getting ourselves in a very nice position now. Yeah, so we've got at the moment we're doing an RFOX giveaway. I had to have my arm twisted because ultimately, for these types of liquidity incentives, I like to give away something like ETH or Bitcoin or something like that. Now people say, well, people would respond really well to that. But the fact is that statistically, people want more of the native coin that they're invested in, and that's why they're providing liquidity for it. But I think you'll see a mindset very shortly of where we move towards saying we value RFOX too much to be using that as the primary incentive. We'd rather give away someone else's token. And if you look at the Ethereum world, back in the ICO days in 2017, everybody collected money in Ethereum, and then every single time a project needed to liquidate, they used to dump their Ethereum. So if a project raised $100 million of Ethereum, you knew there was a massive dump incoming. So those of us who'd been around a while were able to say, okay, let's buy a whole heap of Ethereum while an ICO is just before it starts. Before the ICO starts, let's sell all of our Ethereum. And then as soon as the ICO is finished and that company starts dumping all of their Ethereum to get capital, let's buy back our Ethereum position, and you're able to make a lot of money out of it. We never want our token to be in a situation like that. Okay, so the beta version of our game will come out in December as stated. That's the Slammer game. We've actually got several other games already slated. Because the games are arcade-style games that are very amicable to being able to use your cogs in as far as levels, access, skins, weapons, tournaments, and all the rest of it. The games that we're building are not overly complicated. They're more sort of fun and engaging and tournament based. So even though we've said that the next game reveal will be in March, there's a very high chance that the actual it won't just be a reveal of this is what the game's going to be. There's a very good chance that that will be the next game. And there's already a couple of games that we've got slated for development now that we'll start building straight after this release. So I'm hoping that if the wheels of motion come into play the way that we would like, we'd be able to have a good, 2, 3, 4 games come out next year alone. No, so we know the guys, and we've met with them a few times and all the rest of it. When we first met with them, it was relatively early in their journey as well. They didn't actually have the proper game out yet. The game's come out, and now they're going down the path of land sales and quite a different model to what RFOX is actually doing. To be honest, we've decided not to go down the land sale route. Ours is very different, but yeah, and very different to Decentraland as well. The thing is that because we have this expo type hall where you've got shopping, like shops and stuff inside of there where people will be able to start up a Nike store and sell virtual items and physical items. You can go into the virtual store, buy physical items that will get delivered to your doorstep, much the same way as you go onto Amazon. But within that space, there will be the opportunity for people to purchase cogs, go in and join tournaments, and have a look around at all the different games that we've actually got as well. So I think that as far as collaborations with those types of games are concerned, everything's possible. We've got a lot of very big real world games that have sort of talked to us about what could we do? Can we incorporate cogs, or can we incorporate what we've got into cogs, or have a cog with our company, or to do a bit of cross marketing or whatever. As you've probably seen, we did it once in the first couple of weeks, and then we sort of said, nah. We didn't bring out any Halloween cogs. Everybody was like bringing out Halloween edition cards and all the rest of it, and we thought, and it's each to their own. Every company's different. We sort of thought to ourselves, we're not going to flood the market with a whole heap of stuff that's just there for the purpose of a Hallmark holiday and trying to get a few extra bucks. We turned around and said, no, we've got a quality product. We don't want to cheapen that. We want to make sure that the cogs are the cogs, and they're for each of the editions, and they come out and they're used in the game. So, but going back to your first question, we are talking to a lot of the different games. We will be partnering with the biggest in the blockchain space in some capacity very shortly. We're just trying to work out how to get the time to do that, but we've been talking about that for months. So yes, there is some partnerships and collaborations coming up, but they're not necessarily in the way that people might envisage. They're more sort of, we both dig what each other's doing, and we think there's some opportunity for us to work together. I can't, but I mean, most people have sort of guessed anyway. But the fact is that we really like them, they like us, and I think that we have sort of sat down and said there's no point doing something together unless it's different and unless it's groundbreaking. There's no point saying, hey, send over 10 subscribers to us and we'll send over 10 subscribers to you, or let's do a basic pack giveaway or something like that. It has to be something that people go, this is cool, like no one's done this before. Yes. So how it works is that we've now brought out the formula, and we've said that in December the people will be airdropped. So we're doing 1 million tokens, and it's based on the categories of mint, rarity, and also your collection scores. So they're all available on Waxplorer, and we're building a little tool so that people that are mathematically challenged don't have to worry about working out formulas. They'll just be able to log on and see where they are, and get an indicative sort of indication of how much they're going to get or receive in RFOX. I think the thing is that as far as what it's dropped as, we're working as hard as we can, because we know that the game has to come out in December. By that time, we will need to be using bridges or wrapping tokens, and therefore there will be a RFOX wax token on that side that will power the gaming economy over there. So we would like, and again, no promises, because we're always reliant on tech that other people are building, and these are complicated pieces of tech. If the bridge isn't ready and we can't do wax wrapped or wax RFOX, then we do it on the ETH side. But our ultimate goal and hope is to say, here you go, here's a heap of RFOX on the wax side, and then now you can use that for when you're trading and selling and buying your cogs. Yeah, so that we've got lots of different bridges planned, but this is the interesting part about it, which we still have to work through with every one of the chains. Some of the chains actually use a system which we have to make a call on, and these are business decisions that have to be made every day. But some of the chains, for example, start up a contract and they basically say, we take the ERC token, lock it, mint a new token on the other side, and then what we do is we burn the token that you were bringing across, meaning the ERC RFOX is burned. Now, our contract is non-adjustable, meaning if you burn the ERC RFOX token and then we create, for example, let's just say it's a Komodo or RSK or you know, whatever it is, wax, yeah, whatever it is. And then so say we've got our RFOX over on that chain. If someone says, cool, I've got a heap of it, I'm going to send it back over to the ETH side so I can sell it on Uniswap, it'll say no new tokens can be created. It's a one-way street, which is that brings up two interesting points. And some of the chains, there'll be no way around that. So what that will mean is that there'd be a depreciating supply of RFOX on the ETH side, which people would absolutely love. But what we're trying to do is work with people to say, lock the RFOX on the ETH side into a contract, produce a new token on the other side, and if someone ever wants to bring it back, then you burn or destroy that token and release the RFOX ERC token that was being held in a contract. So again, what we have to do is A, work out how that works for all the different chains, but B, we've got to remove all the ambiguity, and we've got to make sure that the people that are actually utilizing these services have no understanding of what's going on behind the scenes. We need to make this very, very simplistic. So ultimately, as a user, I want to go to Uniswap, buy some RFOX, see the game that I like, and then say, oh, I want to go play that. I click a button and it basically says credits have been added to your account. Feel free to go ahead and play and buy whatever you like. And as far as the end user is concerned, why do they need to know more? As I always say, I buy an air conditioning unit or a fan, and if I go to turn it on and it says, where would you like to get your electricity from? How much would you like to pay for your electricity? How would you like this electricity to work? This is a very, very something that I don't want to have to deal with. So we're even though that's our philosophy and we talk about that a lot, some people will turn around at some stage and say, why is it taking so long to get to that point? Or why is it so complicated when you've said that your focus would be on making it easy? Well, the simple fact of the matter is some of the infrastructure that we want to use is not there. And hand on heart, I've always, my whole career, been a person who walked in and said, hey, why don't you just do that? That's the most simplistic way to do it. And customers would love this. And then technical people stand there and scratch their head and say to me, do you want to build that? Do you know how much that costs? Do you know how difficult that is to build? And as a person who is an ambassador for the customers, I say, oh, I don't care. Just get it built, work out a way. So what we've realized over the last couple of years is we can't rely on other people to build those things because they're either A, not up to the standard we want, B, take way too long, C, we're dependent completely on other people. I can't go out and say, I'm going to sell t-shirts tomorrow. And then someone says, where are you going to get the t-shirts from? And I say, I don't know. I'll have to find someone, and then can't. So we've learned to pull back a little bit. Like, we're sitting on so many announcements at the moment that if we brought these announcements out, it would just be, there'd be fireworks going off. But the issue is, it's a balance. I don't know that some of these people that we're dealing with can deliver what they say they're going to deliver. I don't know whether some of these people will produce products of the quality that we want, that are at the COGS type of level. And I also don't want to go out there and then have those people turn around and say regulations and laws have changed, and people say, why did you say that? And then it didn't happen. We've learned our lesson. What we say now is we'll talk about the stuff that we're firmly in control of ourselves. Anything that we're not firmly in control of, we'll say, we're planning on doing this, this is coming, and then we'll just keep people up to date, because ultimately we are done with talking about what other people are going to do for us. Thank you. Well, the thing on that is that if someone says to me, you did a bad job of this, I say, okay, that's good feedback. Or you didn't communicate this properly, I say, okay, that's great. But if someone goes after the staff, I'll pull out machine guns. Second thing is, if somebody does something that hurts the brand or the reputation of the brand for personal benefit or gain, I don't tolerate or like that at all. We live, eat, sleep, and breathe, and put everything in our lives second to RedFOX, including, and I'm not saying that's a good thing, I'm not condoning this in any way, shape, or form, but including, we've put our families second, we've put our lives second. So we really, really love and are passionate about this brand and about what we're building. So we will do whatever we possibly can to defend that, and we want to make sure that the end user has a good experience, and it has to be better than what they're used to or getting elsewhere. Otherwise, we can't compete. Yeah, so the idea is to make, let me put it simply, we want to make it so that there is actually a free-to-play version of the game, obviously. So you won't necessarily need any of that stuff to be able to play it. So ultimately, it would be a download of the app, which would contain the game, and then you'd be able to just start playing. Now, for example, there's lots of methods we can use, and we won't give away the whole kit and caboodle and all of the plans, but effectively, and we've talked about having a gaming partner, that there is a lot of opportunities for us to work with bigger platforms. The idea is to say you can play for free, you can enter free tournaments, and those free tournaments would also allow you to potentially win some cogs. Then you would have to then go and register a Wax Cloud wallet or a wallet, depending on how this progresses, to be able to claim those cogs. So the idea is to say, hey, you're playing something to earn. You can actually make some, you can actually win some things that are worth something on a secondary market. Now, most people will take the time to work out how to convert that. So I guess the long and the short of it is, his son will be able to download the app and start playing the game just as he would any other game that he would download from Play Store or get to the Apple Store or whatever. If he wanted to really immerse himself into the cogs and getting cogs, and realizes that he needs a Satoshi Slammer to get to the next level, then he's going to be tapping his dad on the shoulder and saying, you need to be poor so that I can play the game. Because of the Satoshi Slammer, it's a bad example, but you know what I mean. What I mean is that that we're not forcing people into having to learn cryptocurrency and to get wallets to play the basic game. It's only if you want to actually play to win, play to risk, or to get special access rights into tournaments that you would actually have to start integrating and working with the wallets. Well, a lot of people will say, I don't have cogs, for example. I don't want to go and buy a superset, but I do want to enter the tournament. I'm awesome at the game. How much is it going to cost me? Which is where this whole staking sort of idea comes in, because let's just say, for example, it's $50 buy-in with RFOX to play in a tournament. A person who has a superset would potentially have free access. So a person who has that superset might say, I don't want to play every tournament. It's great that I get but I bought it as a collector. So what you can effectively do is put up your set and then say, what will someone pay me to be able to have the access right to the tournament? Now, providing that's less than the actual entry fee of $50, someone might say, I'll give you $30 or $40. Now, you don't have to relinquish or hand over your cogs to give that person the right to play in the tournament. It basically will just, for want of a simpler explanation, it'll basically divert the lookup and allow that person the ticket or entry into the tournament. So the demand will definitely come from secondary market, from fees, from people that are selling these items on a secondary market, people that are wanting to buy them on the secondary market, and that's just the gaming side. When you look at all the other things that we're doing as well, there's multiple use cases and multiple needs for people to do that. If you think about it, there's a lot of cogs out there that people can't complete sets with because they're saying there's only 3 of them and the people won't give them up, and it doesn't matter what I offer them. They say, no, I'm collecting them. Well, the good part about it is that that there'll also be the same philosophy with people that are playing. They'll say, I'm a collector, I'm not a gamer. But if the person knows that there's no risk to them losing their cogs, but they could effectively have some money coming in for the fact that they've just got them sitting in a wallet. If you tell me that I've got a superset, for example, and I've locked it up in a wallet and it's gathering dust, so to speak, but it is accumulating in value, I'm thinking, great, that's a great little thing that I've got onto. But then if I start noticing that there's $30, $50, $70 worth of value coming in and trickling in just because it's sitting in my wallet, we want it to get to the point where people turn around and say, damn it, I should have got 2 supersets or 3 supersets. So that's the whole idea. The whole idea, we make no bones about it. We want to make it that people can play to earn. And one thing I admire about Axie, who you mentioned earlier, is there are people in Indonesia, and this is not something that we're endorsing or talking about or promoting, but they did, by coincidence, accident, whatever, because of the success of the project, people are actually making a living out of playing the game. So, and that's great if you're living in a developing nation or something like that, but we cater to developing nations. So if people can sit there all day long during this horrible economic period that we're going through, and which is inevitably going to get a lot worse, and can sit there and play a video game and potentially bring in a little bit of a passive bring in passive value. I've got to be very careful about the words I choose. Bringing in passive value, then that's a massive bonus for the game. Yeah, it's a massive bonus for the game. So we've designed everything with all of that in mind. So basically how it works is that if you've contributed a minimum of $650, you would get a portion of the pool. It would be split amongst all of the people that have done that. So there's 2 answers, and the easy answer is everybody that stakes above 650 gets a part of the pool. Now, what about me? What if I put in $500,000 and someone else puts in $650? It's not fair. Okay, so 2 things. One, the person who's put in 500,000 is going to get a massive percentage of all the fees that are being generated out of that pool. So they get compensated in another way, plus they'll also get that. We don't want to discourage that in any way, shape or form. But the idea is also, what you don't want is you don't want a whole lot of people coming in and putting in $100,000 worth of liquidity into a pool so they can get a percentage of a payout, and then the day after the payout's done, they pull the liquidity from the pool and there's no liquidity left. So a lot of smaller liquidity providers in the space are not looked after. They're not recognised for their effort. Now, when I say smaller liquidity provider, I don't mean smaller as in smaller person or smaller value. I'm talking about, you know, for a lot of people in our community, putting in $350 worth of ETH and $350, for example, roughly of RFOX as well, that's a lot of money to a lot of people. And they're saying, you know, I'm helping you out. It's a project I really like. So we're saying there'll be a couple of boo-hoos, but everybody that's helping out deserves to be rewarded in some way. I mean, so obviously you can't please everybody in every situation, so you just have to do the best for the majority of the people. And as I say, one thing in every business, in every industry in the world, is that the people that are considered to be the smaller people or the smaller contributors always sort of get shafted, or the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Well, in this case, it doesn't really change, because the people that put in the most get the most fees coming back from the pool. But it's also been a good learning curve for me as well. And one of the things that I took away from the countless interviews I watched is one of the people turned around and said this: look, put a percentage of your liquidity and your holdings into liquidity pools. And then it was a live session, and the person said, but why? What about all this impermanent loss stuff and all the rest of it? And they said, take this company, for example, which I won't mention. They've had millions and millions of dollars put into their pool. As a result of there being huge liquidity, people felt confident in being able to buy and sell the token separately, not liquidity providers. They knew that there was going to be liquidity there. As a result of that, by putting in a percentage, say 10 or 15% of their stack, what that actually did was it meant that the increased liquidity meant consumer confidence. People were happy to buy knowing that they could get out, or vice versa. And as a result of that, the token price went up considerably. And so the rest of their stack did very, very well. So liquidity providers rely on the fact that a lot of them try and get out at the same price that they got in, regardless of how long that takes. You've got to stay in for some period of time to make it worthwhile, and you're getting fees as a result of that. So if you can time it right and work the pool the right way, you'll make a heap of fees. Will you end up as well off as if you were just straight holding? This is where that wonderful debate comes in play. If everybody just straight holds, no one's buying or selling. If everybody's putting in a bit of their money to the liquidity pool and people start buying and selling, that causes the interest in the token, and it means that there is a greater potential for you to do better for the rest of your stack that's sitting outside of the pool. So the COGS holders, there will be a table put out so that it's all automated, but we chose 3 categories. And the reason we chose the 3 categories of collection, rarity, and mint, we've got a very talented new person who's joined our team who knows a lot more about this stuff than I do, is for a very good reason. We were unable yet to provide people with tubes. Now, the tubes are what you would put your completed sets in. And so it's very difficult for us to separate what is a completed set versus a not completed set, because you've just got this big mess of cogs in your wallet. So that's something that we're working towards, making sure it's much cleaner moving forward. But what's happened as a result is people have opened 2nd and 3rd wallets to move their completed sets into, so that there is no ambiguity and they don't get do trades and lose their sets and all the rest of it. So the columns relating to how much you've bought and how much you've sold are removed from all of these equations. It's more about what does your collection look like, which is a small percentage of the weighting, but it's more about mint and rarity, meaning if you've got a token that an NFT that there are not many of, that gives you a higher score. And if you've got a very, very low mint, like a 1 or a 2, you get higher point scores as well. So this is going to be really good, because people also said, well, those mechanics then apply to the game. I think you're giving us a hint. No, this is completely different. This is for a drop. They're not to be confused at all. And in actual fact, we're focusing on different things than would actually potentially unlock stuff in the game, because we're trying to make sure, again, that we're fair across the board and that everybody gets rewarded in some sort of way, shape, or form. But I've been asked the question 100 times, why have you bothered to do an airdrop to early COGS holders? They're not necessarily RFOX holders. The fact is that this is a RedFOX Labs ecosystem project, and the people that have got in early and supported COGS they're the reason that we've been successful. So we have no problem with rewarding those people, and giving nearly 15% of the sale, nearly 15% of the sale amount back as a thank you. We believe that that's the right thing to do. So as stated before, we can't replace the local dong. That'll never happen. What we can do is the idea of something like that, and again, when things are written versus when they're said, can be interpreted in very different ways as well. What we want to do is address the fact that there's only about 40% of the population of Southeast Asia that are actually part of the digital economy. So Netflix, for example, only had about 1 million subscribers in last we checked in Vietnam. Now, with 100 million population, you think to yourself, why is only 1% of the population on Netflix when those numbers are ridiculous in other countries? Why? A lot of people, turn around and say, oh, it's because they bootleg everything and they pirate everything and they can get cheap copies of everything. But the fact is, a lot of people don't have credit cards and a lot of people can't access these direct debit systems and all the rest of it. So the idea of this is much more to say, if you don't have a credit card and you're not banked and you're unbanked and underserved, how can we help you get into a situation where you can still access and utilize services that are otherwise off limits to you because you're not creditworthy or you don't have access to these types of things? So this line of thinking is much more about, I want to be able to take my dong, I want to be able to purchase something, whether, and for simplistic terms, I'll call it a virtual gift card or credit card or whatever, that I can then take to any of the services that I want to use online. I can type in the number and it will give me access, and those people will receive their payment in dong. Now, we're not bypassing any laws, we're not trying to disrupt the system or legacy systems or whatever, but everything in the background would obviously go through RFOX, and that's the whole idea of things. So what we're trying to do is provide access to digital inclusion for people that feel like they're frozen out, and we've got an increasing number, and it's much smaller than people would like to tell you on Twitter and all the rest of it. There is an increasing number of people who say that they value privacy above anything else. But just on that, to give you an interesting stat, most of those privacy-related tokens or coins that have shielded transactions and no one can see what's going on with those transactions, less than 2% of the transactions done on those chains actually decide to use those hidden functionality and features. So they're all saying, I buy this because I'm in it for the tech and I love privacy coins, but yet 98% of them are sending them around just like they would be Bitcoin or Ethereum. So my 3 words to those people are: turn it up. It is it's just a crap load of noise, and it's just a nice little thing to say, I support privacy. Technically, 100%. But the thing is that it's, let me word it the right way and not get in trouble. The partnership arrangements that we're starting with, the first ones, are only not being talked about now because there are things that have to be done on their side. And even though we could go out today and say it's happening and this is what's going to transpire, these people, governments have a lot of bureaucratic red tape, and they have to get things signed off, and they have things like, I think governments invent stuff like, oh, it's Christmas, it's Ramadan, it's Easter, it's there's a lot of these little prolonged periods of action, but they also have diligence that they have to go through and make sure that whoever they're working with is vetted and all the rest of it. So we've got through all of that type of stuff. Let me just put it this way: we will be one of the parties working with a government to, in the first instance, to produce digital items for this government, which will lead to other governments on the back of that asking or working with us to produce more digital items for them. It's not something that hasn't been done before, but it is something that was done successfully before and is likely to become more of a thing. And we're just very honoured that we would be considered to be the people that they should be working with to do this. And I think that it's due to the fact that COGS, the feedback that we've been given, this is not us, the feedback that we've been given is we didn't go out and shill the hell out of COGS. We didn't have a $9 million advertising budget. We didn't try and oversell anything we got criticised in the lead up to the fact that we hadn't done enough advertising and marketing, and that we had screwed up everything because we'd done a 3-hour open window, which is just stupid. We'd done everything against the book and the wrong way, but people don't understand. We work on data, we look at numbers, we look at what works, we understand the formulas, we understand why people react to certain things. And what we said was, and what was very important for us, and people need to understand this very clearly, we wanted the product to speak for itself. If we go out and do a massive shill campaign in this space, you're selling the shill, and the product is almost surely never going to live up to the levels of shilling that people do. So what we'd rather do is say, we like it when someone comes back to us and says, imagine how many cogs you would have sold if you had have marketed it better. Imagine how many cogs, but you know what? If you'd sold more cogs, they wouldn't be scarce anymore and they wouldn't be doing as well as they are. So the fact is, we think about everything extremely clearly and carefully before we roll this stuff out. But now what we've proven is there is a product market fit for cogs. It's the number one by a mile on wax. And we've done the least promotion out of everybody. We did the least shilling about it. We went on the least shows and talks and publications and all the rest of it out of it. But we spent 18 months making sure that we built it properly, and it wasn't us just jumping on the latest fad. It was, we saw that this was coming. Just like the next 2 or 3 products that we release, people are already saying to us now, this is no good, no one needs this yet, this doesn't, but if the fact is we know it's coming. So we always want to be just 1 or 2 steps ahead of the curve, and by the time we finish building, which always takes us a little longer than we'd like, that we've got a product that's robust, great quality, and it's on the market at the time when everyone else is saying we should copy them or build that, but they don't have the time to do it, to still capitalize. And this is not to be taken out of context in any way, shape or form, but I think we've been talking to Link for about 6 months, and as far as the oracles are concerned, we've sort of, I think the only thing that probably stopped us pulling the trigger on using Link for some of the stuff that we wanted to do was the fact that we weren't an ERC20 token, and there was not a lot of what we wanted there. Obviously, they've done a fair bit of work now with the WAX and EOSIO implementations and stuff like that. I won't elaborate, but there are certain things that we are looking at implementing that would utilize Link's oracles. That is by no means or way, shape or form us saying that we are in a partnership or anything like that. It's nothing to do with that. It's a matter of, we've been talking to them, both sides, on what we have that they find interesting, what they have that we find interesting, and it's trying to find that middle ground. But as far as leveraging off of that existing partnership between Band and Komodo, I think that for us to sort of do that and to leverage off of that, it would have to be a plug-in, because we're probably, although nowhere near signing off on whatever we're doing on the Link side, it would be sort of like starting the whole process again. And the guys from Link are actually pretty cool, and we've talked to those guys quite a few times. And I think that we've got a project that we haven't ever talked about, and we're not talking about, that we, even if you put bamboo under our fingernails, we wouldn't talk about it. We've got something that is more of a passion to a couple of the people on the team who are big into data and analytics, and we see this one as a real project of passion that we think has a massive future as well. So we're tinkering around with that behind the scenes as well. But yeah, the long and the short of it is, if anything we do with Komodo, with Verus, with RSK, with Wax, it'll be more a matter of plugging into things that already exist, rather than us doing something standalone with a partner that they're working with. Well, as a venture builder, we've got a 9-point funnel system, and we have to have reams of data to understand that if we put a company through the top, and I've said this before, sometimes we sit around and we say, for example, I might say, let's do an ice cream parlor, and someone else might say, let's do a tennis ball factory, and someone else might say, let's do a wicker furniture factory. And then what we do is the conversation stops there, because what happens is we put those industries through the funnel and we say, is there $1 billion business that does this? Is there, would we be third to fifth to market in our region? Can we make $25 million of revenue a year? Can we find the people to do it? Is it actually scalable, feasible? Can we protect the idea that we bring out? So we go through that funnel system, and if it doesn't come out the bottom, it's not a matter of, oh, I quit, I'm out of here because I wanted to build tennis balls. It's a matter of turning around and saying, we remove all subjectivity and all emotion out of our decision-making process. Now, once something comes out the bottom of that funnel and we say it's a winner, we then have to say, we put together go-to-market strategies. Now, the go-to-market strategies are 80-odd slides. These have to have pretty complex and deep competitor analysis, information, trends, and finding out, and pardon my French, but all of the data in the crypto space is all bullshit. So we have to find out whether all these sales volumes are real. Are these pieces of furniture moving? Are these tennis balls, do they actually really bounce as high as they say they bounce? So instead of us paying people for all of this data, we should be the ones who are controlling, building, and producing all of this data. So we're working on a lot of things like that behind the scenes. So we've talked about exchanges and announcements and all the rest of it. I'm trying to scale back a little bit about what we do talk about until it's kind of sure and certain and all the rest of it. And hand on heart, we were supposed to actually list on another DEX, and as I've said, it's nowhere. I mean, Uniswap's the biggest DEX out there, so any other DEX that you list on is obviously not going to be as big an impact. But we've had a few deployment issues, so we're making sure that everything's safe and that everything's right. But also we have to take into consideration we're running a promotion on Uniswap to try and bring in liquidity and for prizes and rewards. So sometimes things just don't stack up. If you go out and then say, oh, and we've got this and this and this, and then people go, well, hang on, I can put a pool in here and I can win a prize. What are you offering for this one? And then we say, come on, we can't juggle 19 different competitions and releases all at the same time. So it's a matter of balancing that stuff. The partnership we've already the first partnership we've already discussed. RSK, as everyone knows, we have an MOU with RSK and IOV Labs. I can announce that we've started the testing on the bridge. So very shortly you'll be seeing, publicly you'll be able to see transactions where RFOX tokens have been sent from the ERC side over across to RSK. That's already happening as we speak. So again, all I'm going to say is that people will join dots and will be able to understand, but obviously that is something that is not, I always say we don't sit around and just play tiddlywinks all day. This is something that we're testing the infrastructure, we're testing the bridging capabilities, and they've got an amazingly simple bridge as far as bridges are concerned. So I pose that question to everybody else, and that is, why would we be testing whether or not tokens can be sent across from ERC to RSK? And it doesn't take Einstein to work out what RSK have got over their side and what we could potentially utilize. So a lot of that stuff will come together, but the last little tidbit I can give you is I'm madly working on refining the light paper for the virtual space. I keep calling it virtual space and people get confused by it, so I want to be really clear that we'll come up with a name for it. But again, think of what we're building as a big indoor expo hall that looks like to a virtual reality avatar or character walking around, looks like a shopping district with actual streets and stores and shops that you would then go into, and you can actually purchase and buy items. And it is a combination of physical and digital, meaning For example, again, an example, I could walk into a hamburger store that is specific to Vietnam in my location. I could walk up to the counter and say, I've never heard of this place. That looks cool. Order the hamburger and then have that delivered to my house in half an hour. So the physical and virtual world are not that far from combining. In countries like Asia, where it is extremely easy to get motorbike deliveries in very short periods of time. But all I can say is that particular project will push the envelope in many, many different areas and ways. And we were fortunate enough to get a very heavyweight regulated payment provider to say, we'll take care of all of the payment side of things for you. So even though everything will run on RFOX under the surface, we'll take care of providing tens of fiat currencies and all the cryptos you can think of, meaning that anybody can go there, scan a QR code or a wallet, buy whatever they like, and not have to worry about the fact of, oh, this is on a Ethereum chain, or this is on an Ethereum contract, or it's on a Bitcoin protocol chain, so I need to transfer from this to this to this. We just want it to be a bloody virtual place you go into, you buy what you like to buy. Don't make it any more difficult. Yeah. Yeah, all I can say in return and in response and as a final closing comment is I'm humbled by people like yourself and the new people that have come into the community who are fantastic ambassadors for what we're actually doing. And a couple of people, I'll single out one, but someone like an Elon Musk, we've had a few people that have been there for a very long period of time who've been through the good and the bad with us. They've seen what's actually happened. They've stuck with us, and they've gone from being a little, well, a lot negative and very critical, and that's because they're passionate, which is great. We want passionate fans, we want passionate supporters, to being ambassadors that any brand would be happy to have. And the thing is that that's testimony, and it gives the team confidence and faith. So we appreciate that. We really, really can't do any of what we do without you guys. And all I'm saying is, we've started producing, you've started seeing the quality of the stuff that we're putting out. It's just a matter of, I understand in this crypto space, everyone wants some new rocket and some new bomb every week. Just know that we're working our asses off. You can't, but when the game comes out in addition to, and obviously that comes out, if that was all we were working on and that was just that alone, that should be enough to really sort of get people's attention. But that is just one small piece of what we're actually working on. So it is exciting, but we just have to be mindful that we probably don't have as big a team as we need to do all of the opportunities that are coming forward to us. So we have to turn down a lot. Just be patient, because we would rather slow something down and get it right rather than bring out 5 things that are all of average quality just to sort of appease the masses. So quality, exactly. And we've moved across to where the token is much more accessible. We've released the first product. We've got the game and everything coming. So one of the criticisms of most projects is, are you positioned well enough if a bull run does come, a proper bull run for alts comes? Are you positioned to be able to capitalize on that? I think that anybody, if they want to take 5 seconds to reflect and step back, would see that everything that we've done has potentially bettered our situation for if that was to eventuate. So yeah, I couldn't be happier. Right, thank you very much for having me.